This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
Yes, London is calling, and calling back to FM 100.3 KFAN. The vast and ever-expanding sports leader in your home for Minnesota Vikings football. We welcome you to the Minnesota Vikings team hotel / team manor / team countryside resort, about an hour and change outside of Piccadilly Square and Big Ben and what people would know as Central London. And I'm Paul Allen, joined here by engineer extraordinaire Jared Wells, punching the clock today on the trip with the Vikings radio network and the Minnesota Vikings. And he's been here since we got here at about 9:30 to get ready to record with Kevin O'Connell, head coach of the Minnesota Vikings. A 27-minute conversation with him unfurls at 11 a.m. Central. Back at FM 100.3 KFAN, the producer of 9 to Noon, Eric Nordquist, mad producer, and joining us here at the beautiful manor is Pete Bercich, analyst for the Minnesota Vikings radio network, and also at Pete Bercich for hardcore football takes and YouTube drops via the tweet machine. And it is rather strange, and it's taken a little bit of adjusting, at least for yours truly, going from the hustle and bustle and the craziness of those Dublin, Ireland streets, and to the tranquility of these countryside resorts, which, I mean, the land and the views and just everything is just so vast and just so beautiful. But it's a stark contrast from where we were just yesterday morning, where you with cars driving on the opposite side of the road from the United States of America, that's one thing when you think you got to peek left before you walk out into a street, and you really got to peek right. The cars and the buses,
yeah, that almost got me.
Well, that wasn't really the biggest concern I had there. It was the DoorDash and the food runners on those aggressive motorcycles and
the bikes,
and the propelled bikes and everything. Man, those suckers go fast, and they do it with reckless abandon because they got dollars to be made. Man, and good morning.
They are. It was crazy how crowded it was in Dublin. I mean, the amount of people that this game drew in was remarkable. And we were right in the middle of it. We were, 3 miles from the stadium. We went there for a walkthrough Saturday. It took 55 minutes to take a bus back from the stadium.
Yeah.
3 miles in 55 minutes.
Yeah. Well, we had normally, just to take you behind the scenes a little bit into the weeds with NFL team travel, is like you land. So say we're playing Green Bay and Appleton. You land at the airport, and then you board like 5 or 6 luxury cruisers, buses, and you have a local police escort where cars get out of the way and stuff like that, and you get right to the team hotel. And that was the case when we landed in Dublin and when we landed at Stansted, I believe it's called, in London. But they were a little surprised out Dublin way, not only when a request was made for an escort for team buses and stuff, mate, the rugby teams, they never require that.
The other thing is that only 3 buses per police escort.
Oh, right.
So
that's right.
So you couldn't have more than 3. It reminds me of Pontiac, Michigan, the year we played out there when they were going to move the team back downtown, and they're going to tear down, get rid of the Silverdome.
Yeah.
The last year we were there, the Pontiac police, they gave us an escort, but they just didn't turn their lights on. It just sat in front of us. So
really?
We were literally on the on the clover leaves on the highway, just sitting in traffic in the bus.
Wow.
Just like everybody else on the way to the game, because they didn't really care because the team was leaving Pontiac.
But face changes.
It was nutty though, Paul.
Face changes are required with this segue that we've had from I mean, you're from Chicago. I've lived in multiple big cities, over the course of 59 years. So the hustle and bustle of the big city, downtown life, I actually prefer. I mean, I really, really enjoy the action and, being able to go places at 10, 11, midnight and get food, stuff like that. And the hustle and bustle
food
of the of big cities and people en masse in big cities. Then you get here, at this Team Hotel Manor, and holy cow! I mean, it's not everything here is just beautiful on the countryside, and it looks like it just never stops.
When the Beatles sang about sitting in an English garden, they weren't kidding. I mean, it's a thing. I mean, I walk around with you look at the shrubs and everything, and how well manicured everything is. That's a lot of damn work. I've tried it. It just really doesn't work out. But some of these trees,
to shape these things,
the way they shape them, and then you can walk around this place. And there are trees here that are older than this country.
Yeah, I know.
They've got they got the placards underneath them. They have big redwoods.
There's like a 360-year-old tree in front.
It's insane. It's insane. Well, it's like when we were in Dublin. We went by a cemetery that was it was 1600 something.
Yeah.
Things are old here, Paul. They're very, very old.
Nordo, just in case this one-liner works, on the main page, could you please sit on the I always love that one? Are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay, 3-2. In our final few hours in Dublin, when Pete and I were walking around, I saw something called the Museum of Illusions. And I said, well, let's go in there to find the Vikings victory over Pittsburgh.
I always love that one.
Yeah.
Let me do a covenant catch up with the producer real quick. You're more than welcome to join, and good morning. How was PJ yesterday off that Rutgers win? I sat next to Max Brosmer on our bus ride to Croke Park. And, the time difference is just so crazy that I didn't get to see much of the game, but saw some highlights, and he was pointing out some things with highlights with Drake Lindsay for me and stuff. And holy cow, Max Brosner was just a Twitter and a glow with how happy he was that team beat Rutgers. I would imagine PJ was good yesterday.
Yeah, PJ was great. Truncated conversation as he usually is. He's just so pumped about Drake, and then getting to see that on that stage, I think with the game flow, he really focused on being down early and how his team responded, and Drake in particular. He goes for 303. He was absolutely terrific, and they couldn't run the ball. And so I kind of asked him about that, because you hit him a week ago with like, hey, we're going to get to see Darius, and he does the injury report bit, and it comes out, the lineups come out 2 hours before the game or whatever. Mm-hmm. So, mum on that, but you can tell, in lieu of being able to run the ball, the ability for such a run-focused offense to say, I need to lean on Drake here. This is becoming absolutely a throwing game.
Sweet.
And when it paid off, PJ was over the moon, very much supportive of Coy Parrish in a bounce-back game, sweet sack on Ethan Kaliakmanis, 11 tackles, etc. So, yeah, PJ was a Twitter as well in terms of what he saw, and Buckeyes around the corner. So, we got to play our best, got to have a great week of practice, and we're going to go to the shoe, and it's prime time, et cetera. So we'll see what happens. But he was pumped after that Rutgers W.
Secondly, what is the Twins hardcore fan base reaction? From just either doom scrolling, as you would put it, or just peeking at social media with the dismissal of manager Rocco Baldelli. What are people saying?
Well, I think it's like anything. Those that didn't like Rocco and decisions and how he handled pitching or how he handled in-game management, I think a lot of people are happy. A lot of people are, well, what's next? It's kind of people are pointing the finger at Falvey now, and just kind of they want to see everybody go. Other people a little more pragmatic about it, just kind of, you can't fire all the players. It's kind of that classic trope, which is true, but the idea that somebody had to go, change had to be made, and so Baldelli, as the human, as good as he was, kind of going down that road. Very mixed overall, but it doesn't change the, firing Baldelli doesn't breathe life into this organization, right? It's still in complete malaise from a personnel standpoint, wondering what other shoes may drop this offseason, whether it's a Joe Ryan or a Buxton. Are we going to see more moves made to the bad? I think very split in terms of just Baldelli as that singular move. The sentiment has not changed, though. Fan base is still anti-Pollad and just disgusted with the entire thing. I guess there's a presser at 10. We'll hear more from the team themselves. PA and Pete. London calling. Jeez. We talked here's what happens now with PA and Pete. They are in London, and I'm back here at the 651 Carpet Studios. This is what happens when you talk even a minute of Twins baseball on the fan. As bad as it's been, they fire the manager. Complete disconnect from the signal in London. So PA and Pete Bercich on site, as you heard, Countryside Resorts, and just this loving, warm manner that they are at this week as the Minnesota Vikings are trying to pick up the pieces. You heard some news bits from Kevin O'Connell earlier this morning. You will get to hear him specifically with PA at 11 a.m. local, but just picking up the pieces from that loss on Sunday, moving forward to the Browns, beating the Browns, the A topic with the team. What we're going to do is just jump into the Timber Tech set list, and we're going to try and bring PA and Pete back while we pause. But later today, I mentioned 11 a.m. That's Kevin O'Connell. Pete Bercich is set to hang out with PA for the first hour. And then we're going to jump into kind of NFL at large, whether it's the games last night, how things have kind of transpired in the NFL. And it's good times, bad times. I mean, as focused as we are on the Minnesota Vikings, our favorite team at this time at 2-2 and just grinding things out, and it's injuries galore, Minnesota moving company in shambles, et cetera. We look around the NFL, and you're seeing a lot of the same right now. And you saw it last night. Miami, happy enough to finally get off the schneid and get their first W. Well, now they've lost Tyreek Hill with a significantly disgusting injury. Feel free to not put that video out every single time I'm scrolling and updating X last night. I'm seeing a leg going the wrong way. But at any rate, good times, bad times among NFL teams. We have some Vikes Bites in the mix during the 10 a.m. hour. And then we might... efforting potentially a baseball-related guest.
No, just stopped.
Tempting fate and potentially getting back into the baseball team later. I think we may have, do we have signs of life from London? PA,
we're back.
Oh,
yeah.
Hey, welcome back, sir.
Yeah, it's how are we going to put this? I mean, the place that we're at is absolutely fantastic. It's beautiful. Like I said, it's a countryside type place. The Wi-Fi here, I would assume, is
sketchy.
Well, I think it's pretty good / very good, unless you have the requirements via Wi-Fi capability that is required when a National Football League team comes in here, firing up all these things for game plans and for film and stuff like that, and radio shows. And so, hey,
I mean, you're moving an entire office over here,
right?
I mean, with all the football and the film and all the meeting rooms, and yeah, they got to be stretched pretty thin.
Yeah, everybody here is doing the best they can. But I heard you kind of setting up the show a little bit, O'Connell, at 11 o'clock. And what we'll do is we'll pause here, and here's how the morning went. So 11 o'clock London time, 5 a.m. Cornfields time. That's when yours truly, right around there, maybe 11:15, met with Kevin O'Connell, and we recorded X's and O's. You'll hear that at 11 o'clock. After that, he sat around a table in this garden room right next to us with Alec Lewis, Jim Suhan from the Star Tribune, along with Dane Mizutani from the Pioneer Press. Kevin Seifert was there, and I believe one or two others, and yours truly. And so what he did there was he did kind of an on-the-record background bit where you just got to use your discernment. If he's sharing something that could help with the background for information, but it's not to be shared, then it won't be shared. But when he says, like, Andrew Van Ginkel is not going to practice this week, that's shareable.
Yeah.
Brian O'Neill not requiring surgery with an MRI off the injury at Croke Park against Pittsburgh. That not requiring surgery, but I think it's highly unlikely he plays this weekend. That's just my opinion. Ryan Kelly with the concussion, stuff like that. McCarthy may resume practicing this week. We got into some of that with X's and O's at about 11 o'clock. We talked about Rocco Baldelli. Maybe some news just popped on the Twitter machine here, Nordo, because I have I have one of our mutual friends, Miss Angela Herman, texting me right now saying we got Kirill. So maybe Kirill Kaprizov has signed recently, and I missed that. But that's what's going on here out London way.
Yeah, I'm trying. I'm actually, the text line is blowing up with it, and I'm just trying. So I'm jumping to Russo's X page as we speak.
Yep. Thanks for the help there, A.
And here we go. Breaking news as of 4 minutes ago from Michael Russo. The Minnesota Wild and Kirill Kaprizov have a deal for 8 years, north of the $16 million a year he turned down. Massive signing bonuses. The contract is not yet registered with the NHL, but all intents and purposes, we got him.
We got him from the Manor outside of London. All right, well, you know what the set list looks like. Bercich, NFL through 4.
Yeah.
Vikes bites, unused du Nord, O'Connell X's and O's, and then after that we throw caution to the wind.
Absolutely.
We have some feelers out for some people to assist us and or chat about Rocco Baldelli's dismissal. That now, personally speaking, don't anybody get their feelings hurt or anything. It's like if we're laying out the A topics here. We're in London. And so therefore that's the A topic. It's the Minnesota Vikings. The B, or the low A, like the A minus,
right,
or part of the A would be Kirill Kaprizov.
Yeah.
Getting that deal done with the Minnesota Wild. That's there've been a lot of teeth gnashing over that, so that's fantastic. And then after that, we'll do our very best to opine and offer some second and none opinions on what the Twins are going to do in the current situation they are in for a new manager. And so therefore, good thing we have the con. We have Mad Producer back at FM 100.3, KFAN, and the Carpets Plus Studios. Send out some text to all the pertinence, Russo Radio, stuff like that, see what they say, and we'll put that in the mix for sure somewhere during the course of the journey today, assuming the Wi-Fi here at the Manor, the Wi-Fi obliges for the next 2 hours and 45 minutes. All of that is courtesy of TimberTech and TimberTech.com. We're going to get organized here, and then we're going to return to FM 100.3 KFAN and the 9 to noon show from London to the studios of KFAN just west of Minneapolis. Back after this. Yes, just the two of us, Pete Bercich and yours truly, Paul Allen, here at the Vikings Hotel, our team Countryside Manor outside of central London. Nordo, Mad Producer, is back running 9 to noon at FM 100.3 KFAN. And if you just tuned in, welcome. Kirill Kaprizov, the Wild and Kirill Kaprizov just closed on an 8-year contract extension. So that definitely has some A topic to it. Congratulations to him. Congratulations to the team. And I would say specifically here and with bumper to bumper with Barrero, expect some extensive conversation on that as your Tuesday rolls on at your favorite radio station, FM 100.3 KFAN, to some Vikings football proper, outside of the surroundings and the settings and the cities and the stadiums and stuff like that. Tough loss at Croke Park. A very, very fun experience for those of you who got up at 8:30 in the morning and listened to the KFAN Minnesota Vikings audio network. We had fans all around us. Steelers fans are just about some of the kindest that we've met in our journey together since Pete and I started calling games together in 2007. So that made it tenable. That made it fun. They in essence were on top a majority of the game and basically, went nearly wire to wire. But when everybody listens to Kevin O'Connell with X's and O's today at 11 o'clock Central, so that's going to be about 2.5 hours from now. Part of it that I found to be very, very interesting is because I've never heard Kevin say this. I almost want to say concede this, but I've never heard Kevin say it this way when he said, paraphrasing, the Steelers got us to play the game they wanted us to play. So as a former coach and player, what exactly does that mean? That
means the strengths of the Steelers Granted, they didn't come into the game with, let's call it the greatest statistical running game, if you will. But they were able to throw Kenneth Gainwell in there and just run the football and be patient. And when you can run the football like that, then Rodgers can play up to his strengths, or what he's still able to do, and that's throw quick slants, quick throws, and then fades on the outside if you get press coverage. So in that regard, we never made them cover a lot of ground in a short period of time. That, I think, offensively, that's the case. And then defensively, we, with the injuries and then having to make the adjustments along the way, I don't think we ever got into our game plan. There was so much. Again, I've talked about it before, but when you're coaching and a guy is out for an entire week, you can make adjustments for him. You can build a game plan around it. But when you lose two guys during a game, right, or a guy or two during a game, that's a whole nother animal, because you got to make adjustments on the fly, and building that into what the routes and those things you want to do, it's very, very difficult. So I think there was a lot of that going on in the background as we tried to climb back from a 2 to 3 score deficit at times. And there were some things to get excited about. I think that the back shoulder fade that we got to Addison was a great throw. It's so difficult to defend, and you're going to see a lot of that this week against Cleveland, because they like to play with just 3 deep and put everybody down in the paint for sure. So you're going to see a lot of that, a lot of man-to-man on the outside. But we just haven't gotten the ball down the field. There have been, and the sad part is, I think there have been a lot of opportunities, but the quarterback feels hurried, looks hurried. It's that fraction of a second longer to let that deep crossing route get open and get into that lane that you want to throw it. And, so he at one time went through one out of bounds, and it was way off. And I remember you saying it, and then my response was, that's the first ball we've seen 20 plus yards down the field, right? The quick passing game is there, but we need to start getting that ball down the field a lot more. Whether that's protection or Wentz. He had Jalen Naylor 2 games ago.
Well, he had him last game for a couple.
It. Oh yeah, there were a number of, I think.
He didn't.
Justin Jefferson was open a number of times on crossing routes.
A couple of Nailers. He didn't have time on one, and Naylor broke it off, and there was nobody near him. And then Carson kind of had time, looked to the left. It was Naylor flaring out to the right, and there was nobody there. That's kind of been a common thread with Jalen Naylor during the course of the season, being missed for some touchdowns, but he did get one in the game. And Pete Bercich, analyst for the Minnesota Vikings Audio Network, is with yours truly, Paul Allen, here in London. And Pete's appearances and Pete's inclusion 9 to noon is courtesy of Sukup Manufacturing and Sukup.com. Thank you very much for believing in and being a part of the KFAN family. Nordo?
Yeah, Pete, the conversation in large part yesterday when I was filling in for PA was kind of about protection and penalties. And focusing on the penalties for a moment. So whether it's getting it down the field and just kind of, having a smooth, streamlined offense moving forward, the ability to find discipline as a group in short order. You can't fix the health thing, but you can become disciplined. As a coach, as a former player, what do those conversations look like over the course of this week in terms of we got to play a cleaner game? I don't care who's out there, just at a base level, guys, we got to play clean, specifically pre-snap.
Yeah, we do. We had an illegal man downfield on a play. I remember early on we had a drive to get deep into the red zone, and then you go penalty, and then a sack, and you're just backing up. There's certain things you can start doing. As a coach, you can threaten the players with, if I have to, I will go on one all game long, and we will not shift or motion anybody. If you want to play offense that way, then by all means keep doing what you're doing. Mainly just letting them know the shifting, the motioning, the hard counts, all those things, they help. That's a weapon that the offense has, but it can't be a detriment. And so if you're going to continue to do those things, then you have to tell them, hey, I'll just quit, going on the hard count. I'll quit moving you guys around. I'll just let you line up and let the defense know exactly what you're doing and go from there. So you have to get the point across that that's primary. And I'm talking about procedural penalties, pre-snap penalties, those kinds of things. Those have to go. I mean, we're not good enough to make up for them all the time. All right, you just can't, especially in the red zone. And I think if you look at these offensive drives, I don't have the numbers obviously in front of me, but if you were to do a deep dive, you would see how many drives where we had either or both a penalty and a sack, and most of the time ends up in a punt or being in the red zone, penalty, sack, then you're kicking a field goal. Our percentage of field goals to touchdowns is not where you want it to be right now.
Yeah, it was ineligible man downfield in the red zone. You see a sack later, and then you're kicking 3rd and 7. Darrisaw false start makes it 3rd and 12, a sack, and you're punting. So the delay of game at the 2 in the Falcons game, you can point to all these things. The team leads the league in pre-snap penalties. Now, in terms of I think it's 18 at this point. I mean, it's a problem.
Yeah, so, at the beginning of X's and O's, O'Connell talks extensively about the penalty problem. And the way I framed it up was, and it's factual, is they have the second most. They're like 9.5, 9.7 a game. And in his first 3 years, they were top 7, top 5 every single year. So how do you preach that thing out? And I think he talked for 5 minutes straight. I mean, it's really, really, really working on his last nerve. But anyway.
Yeah, I can imagine that it is. Now, Pete, from the protection angle, a lot of Monday morning quarterbacks, including myself, just, you watch Jalen Redmond, one of the bright spots, I think, on Sunday. He has 2 sacks, but including the first play. And then they go 3 and out, they punt. But from really the rest of the game, the adjustment that Rodgers made is, we're not waiting around for me to end up on my butt here. We're going to get this thing out. We're going to move it quickly. And you saw some of that with the offense, specifically, I think that opening possession, that did stall out in the red zone. But the quick game and some of those things in short order, how easy or difficult is it from an offensive standpoint to just simply say, we're going to do something completely different? You mentioned the lack of motions and such as you were talking about the penalties going on one. How realistic is it within the context of a game? You're losing guys midstream now to make these drastic changes in game.
Well, no, I'm just saying you can't. You have to let them know that it's a non-negotiable. And the problem is you can't. This isn't college. You don't have guys stacked up like cordwood, and you can't threaten to start benching guys. You know what I mean? It's just not. You have to appeal to their professionalism and say, hey, listen, if you guys don't fix this, and then their defense. This is the second quarterback they've heard this year. We've had different linemen, and there's a lot of excuses out there. But again, it's don't tell me how rough the waters are. Just bring the ship in. Just stop it. It's a concentration thing. Right, and I've been there, and when if you're a lineman and and you've been playing for a while and exactly what your responsibilities are, you get it, you break the huddle, you get to the line, and then you just let everything happen in front of you. But think about the mindset when you're breaking the huddle and you're trying to remember the plays, and you're like, okay, if we get this front, I got to do this, and if we get that front, we're going to get this, and we might, so your brain is thinking about the what ifs. And then in the meantime, you're going, oh my God, what was the snap count? Oh no, you know what I mean? It's where your head is, where your mind is. So simplification may help. I don't know. I mean, we're not part of the meetings, and we don't know exactly what's going on. But it could be just a lack of communication, or it could be a lack of concentration. I mean, there's a lot of different things that it could be. But either way, it has to become a priority number one, meaning I don't care if what happens this weekend, but if we eliminate these penalties, it's a step in the right direction. It's kind of like when you win or lose as a coach, you have to sit down and go through and take an inventory of everything that needs to be fixed and what went wrong. You do this win or lose. But there's certain things that have to be prioritized, and foot technique or hand technique or checking to this or doing this or adjusting this way or that way. Throw all that out the window if you can't even get the ball snapped, right? Throw all that out the window. So being in the right spot and being where you need to be at the snap is huge. And so you just, again, prioritize it. You kind of get away from it at this level, or you can, because these guys are all professionals, and it's a high school issue with guys jumping off sides and all that kind of thing. But every once in a while, especially with a team that's had as many changes to the front as we have offensively, some of that stuff might rear its ugly head. And I don't care if we're traveling, staying, you're not sleeping in the same bed, you're not around your family, all those things have changed, but that's not an excuse, and they really have to find a way to fix it.
With Andrew Van Ginkel not practicing this week, if you don't practice, you 9 out of 10 times don't play. So let's head into it speculatively speaking, assuming that he doesn't play. And, people think about Van Ginkel with the sacks and the tackles for loss and the jumping of the routes and the 2 defensive touchdowns last year, and he's very good at all of that. This team misses Andrew Van Ginkel in its run defense.
Yes.
So badly.
Yes.
And Van Ginkel is good at pretty much everything he does, but I guess the run force or the run stopping would be the underrated facet of it, simply because not as many people pay homage to players for being high end at run stopping unless they're like a big time tackling run stopping corner, because corners are never thought of as like mix it up and be super tough tacklers.
Yeah, you don't get paid to tackle as a corner,
right? But his impact with the run defense, the Vikings allow 130 rushing yards per game. That's 24th in the NFL. Way, way too high. That's way too high of a number for a Flores defense.
Yeah, and you look at the way the Steelers went about doing it, and it was off tackle, right? And that's where, when we had both Van Ginkel and Grenard last year, one thing that surprised me was how well both of them played the run. And when you're an outside linebacker, you have to have contained, but it's not just turning the running back. It's holding the edge. It's a feel. There's a certain feel and a certain amount of physicality that you have to play that properly in this scheme. Van Ginkel had it and Grenard had it. I think Dallas Turner is getting better, right? I think he's getting better. But Pittsburgh was able to run off tackle. They brought in that big guy Spencer Anderson, the extra offensive lineman. They had the behemoth Darnell Washington out there, and they were able to wear us out on the edges. And if it was Gainwell going one way and then cutting it back the other, whatever it would, whichever way you want to look at it, we were soft off tackle, and that's. You can adjust it with alignment maybe up front, but you're missing Van Ginkel big time, especially in the run game. No question.
That's Pete Bercich. Thanks to Sukup Manufacturing and Sukup.com. Vikings and Browns from Tottenham Hotspur in London this Sunday. Then they have the bye. The pregame show on KFAN begins at 6:30. Then the kickoff at about 8:30 against our third of 4 AFC North teams the Vikings will face this year. They manhandled Cincinnati. They took an L to Pittsburgh. Now they have Cleveland and Lamar Jackson and his bad hamstring, and this Ravens bad.
Hello? PA and Pete broadcasting from London as we continue to battle. We're battling Wi-Fi on a Tuesday morning, but you heard it. PA and Pete, London calling, and we're going to get them back on the horn, of course. But hey, as part of this show, it's football focused, right? The voice of the Vikings is in London with the team. Team just lost to the Steelers. They're trying to beat the Browns. And that is a focal point of this show. But the ability of shows to pivot at some point when needed, that's part of the bit too. And the news, of course, coming out this morning, Kirill Kaprizov and the Minnesota Wild finally consummating a deal. Russo Radio, you can follow him at Russo Hockey. It's an 8-year affair. And apparently per year, it's north of the $16 million that was being bandied about. Really, it feels like forever now. How about this summertime drama that we've all endured as Wild fans? But Kaprizov in the mix, 8-year deal, north of $16 million. And while we are talking about football, trying to figure out, as you were hearing about the defensive front, how are we doing against the run? What about Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave through 4 games? What do they look like? I want to dig into that with Pete and company next segment, NFL conversation throughout. But I want to hear from you. Free iHeartRadio app. I'm sure you got the fan as your preset on the iHeartRadio app. So while you do that, you hit that microphone. Give us up to your best 30 seconds. How pumped are you that the Wild finally got this deal figured out with Kirill? Give us your thoughts. Talkbacks on the free iHeartRadio app. We're going to pause now, and when we return, we're going to check back in with PA and Pete from London Town. It's 9 to noon on the fan. Thanks for the Talkbacks free iHeartRadio app. Hit that microphone. Give us up to your best 30 seconds. A football frenzied conversation as we will eventually check back in with PA and company in London. But news of the day, Kirill Kaprizov and the Minnesota Wild finding terms, an 8-year deal worth north of $16 million a season, that courtesy of Russo Radio. We are efforting maybe potentially a check-in with Russo, maybe a Kevin Gorg. I think he's on his route to the rink right now. So KG on the scene. But right now, Zach Halverson, you hear him producing efforts and work on the Power Trip Morning Show. Terrific work. First of all, thank you, by the way. I know it takes a village. At like 5 a.m. this morning, I am still asleep. And the coach, Kevin O'Connell, is a man of a schedule and a man of routine. And he recorded the X's and O's with head coach Kevin O'Connell segment at 5 a.m. And, well, I'm not getting here at 5. You took care of business. And I heard kind of the back end of things. You know, Abbott, Meat Sauce Paul Lambert's been here for a long time. And I was told that Saucy was going to be the one to do it. Mm-hmm. It feels like you were the backup plan.
Well, he texted me.
Because he kind of took it personally. He's like, Abbott doesn't even believe in me to be here to record a segment. Halvey was already here.
And I don't blame him because he texted about 8:30 last night. Chad Abbott texted. It was a group text between me, Abbott, and Sauce. And he's like, hey, don't forget tomorrow, KOC at 5 a.m. And I had never heard of this at all before. 8:30 last night. And so I texted Sauce, but I knew there's a good chance Sauce has already been asleep for 2 hours at that point, which he was. And so, it was just a case of in the morning, it's like, well, I don't want, it's the coach of the Minnesota Vikings. I'm not going to, not be here and then we're screwed. So
no, you're very reliable. And you were right. Saucy did go to bed early last night because our mutual friend, you're familiar with Hot Ass Randy.
Yes.
He was on some tangent with some TikTok conspiracies last night. Like we all went to bed early once Randy got the train moving on that. To the A topic, at least locally and prescient and fresh, this Kirill Kaprizov deal, again, just going off of what I saw from Russo, it's 8 years. It's north of $16 million a year. What is your 10,000-foot view of just hearing that deal has been consummated?
Exhale. It's a nice big exhale. I was never really, really worried, but of course, the news a week or two ago with the, largest contract in NHL history being offered and him declining it. Then the question was, does he really actually want to play here? We've heard plenty of athletes and all sorts of sports talk about how great Minnesota is and how they love being here and how they want to play here. And then they go venture somewhere else. And this is a validation that all those words were actually meant by Kirill when he was talking about how much he loved it here, called it his second home. And
he likes us. He really likes us.
He really does like us. And so, this was a really good day for the Minnesota Wild, finally getting this into some stone here. And now Bill Guerin can move forward with the rest of whatever the plan that they have here. It's a little bit of sticker shock for some people. Against $17 million a year. That's a lot. But that will not be as much here as the salary cap increases over the next few years. So it will still be certainly a hit, but that's what you're going to get. That's everybody of his caliber is going to be a hit, a 2-year salary cap. The good news for the Wild is, like I said, they're going to get a little bit more breathing room as the years drag on the next few years. So,
well, and that's even played one of those talkbacks, and just I can't say that I'm agnostic to it. Like I love the Minnesota Wild, pumped and follow this entire melodrama soap opera of sorts as we all waited for this deal to be done. But there is a lot of that sentiment out there where it's like 8 years. Whoa. and he has had injury issues the last couple of years. And it wasn't until, I think, maybe the State Fair, and it was Russo in the booth with PA and I, where it just kind of smacked me in the head. Like, what if there was a shorter deal that was it's not necessarily the per, but it was the years in the mix. Does that give you, again, on the back end of the Parisi Suter saga, does it give you any trepidation or apprehension at all about the idea that 8 years he's going to be 35, 36, 37 in that range potentially, that we are locking in potential, or maybe he'll be healthy throughout, but just kind of the health and the term associated with locking in with Kirill?
A little bit, and I was, maybe being a little naive, thinking maybe that, missing half of last season would have maybe saved the Wild some money somehow, some way. They would have looked at the value but unfortunately, the way the market is right now in the NHL with some major superstars, McDavid, one of them, who are going to be looking at a new contract. You have to lock these people down, because there's going to be a lot of people who would have very much wanted Kaprizov on their team, would have paid just as much as the Wild did. Obviously, they couldn't get the year 8. They could only have gone up to 7. But yes, 8 years. There's certainly a little bit of a concern, but it's like any concern is completely dwarfed by the fact that we have a superstar, legitimate superstar in our midst. He has a 612 or 615 or 651 area code now. He's in this area. He's playing.
What, you have his cell? You have his cell number?
Maybe, I don't know. Might be some Russian one too. I don't know what their country code is, but the fact is we have a superstar here. We're going to keep him here, and the only way to keep him here, I think, in the way negotiations went, the only way to keep him here was to offer that length. So it is what it is. We hope, we pray, we think, well, maybe, just maybe, this is finally a tide turning here in Minnesota sports land, and we can maybe see finally that what we've seen in so many other markets, where you have a guy who can completely change the course of a franchise and bring them a championship. And Kirill Kaprizov, I believe, is the best chance for the Minnesota Wild to achieve that Stanley Cup.
Bill Guerin has taken a lot of heat over the last couple of months.
Yes.
At any point, did you lose trust in the idea? Because with Bill, tons of respect for Guerin, but throughout this process, it almost felt like he was too casual. And maybe, and frankly, that's the tough thing about being on the outside of it, is I, as a fan, I need something from him. Give me that morsel, dude. You're too chill on this. Mm-hmm. This is our game changer, and you're acting like this ain't no thing, and you'll handle it, and just, we don't need to worry about it. That's what I do. I'm a fan. I have to worry about this. And he just stayed very, very stoic, very mum on the entire process. And in the end, there's a bit where Guerin can kind of just come out and say, I told you so. Yeah. No big deal. On to the next thing.
We had him in last Friday on the power trip. He played initials.
Great addition to that, by the way.
That was awesome was that? He's a really, really cool dude. And, there was obviously the one little we had to ask. And, of course, he had to say no comment. But, you're trying to gauge the temperature. And he was still very on air, off air, very relaxed, very cool, collected. There was they do this every year where they have the reporters get to watch some of the preseason game in the Craig Leopold suite, and he talks with the reporters afterward, and he basically said that he doesn't want to talk about anything. I think the words basically were he has everything to lose and nothing to gain by talking about this, and so the concern level certainly got heightened if you were looking at it from a Kirill leaving way of viewpoint, but I think it all just kind of came down to both sides relaxing and seeing what Kirill actually wanted, and I think especially after that offer was declined a couple weeks ago, that was just more of an indicator that it was all in Kirill's hands. What he wanted to do, he was going to do, and he was going to get, and he obviously, at this point, throughout the negotiation process, wanted to stay here, and he chose to stay here, and that's wonderful.
No, that is time for one or two more. Again, the news that Kirill Kaprizov in the Minnesota Wild, it's an 8-year deal, $17 million a year. I kept saying north of 16. Maybe I should have just looked and refreshed my social media, but 17 mil per. And we're still waiting. I guess it's not necessarily official with the NHL, but Russo's reporting on it. We feel good about this. Now with that said, so we can wash our hands of it, and now we got preseason hockey in the mix, and eventually we're going to be playing games that count. Guerin's job doesn't necessarily end here, right? Like, it's not feed up. I mean, it's still, trying to mix and find the right matches to go with Kaprizov, and questions about defensive health. Vikings, I saw a talk back here. The Vikings are a walking infirmary. Well, in some ways, whether it's Brodin and Spurgeon and two guys that we've loved what they've given to the Minnesota Wild, health is a conversation there, and raising Zev Buyum, and then we're going to get to see Durov and et cetera. But just still trying to figure out how to build things around Kaprizov. That's now that we got 97 in the mix. Now it's what the rest of it looks like.
Well, some other good news we did receive recently. It sounds like Brodin might be ahead of schedule on coming back. So
okay, there we go.
There's some encouraging news on that front. But as you said, Nordo, I mean, this is now a moment for Guerin to go, okay, this is what I got now. It was hard to figure out what he could sign, what he couldn't do, because he didn't know. I mean, it could have been, he could have had Kirill could have gone somewhere else and got all sorts of money to spend, and you can't really, figure out. You can war game, and I'm sure there's about 17 different binders right now on Kellogg, where he, will have all these different scenarios. Now he can open up the one where, Kirill has signed, and he has this amount of room to work with, and so it's going to be interesting to see as the season goes on, and hopefully, like you mentioned, last year was a nightmare from a health perspective in terms of injuries, and the fact that they still made the playoffs and still really were maybe an offsides call away from that series going in their favor. And potentially making that first round 2 and who knows how long. This is a good, solid core team that just got better because Kirill is locked in. That's going to help the locker room. That's going to help all the new kids, all the veterans know that they have a superstar, that's going to be here for a very, very long time, that's committed to this squad. And then obviously more pieces coming into play depending on what Guerin and his staff see, but it's just nice that he now knows what he can play with now moving forward to help this team get better and build a nice group around Kirill, which he, by the way, already has a pretty nice group, in my opinion.
Well, I appreciate you on the fly jumping in here, man, and just kind of giving me perspective on this. This is awesome, Halvey. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
That's Zach Halverson, Power Trip Morning Show. And, I'm seeing this more reporting being done. This is also per Michael Russo. Again, efforting, whether it's Kevin Gorg, Russo. I'm going to try and get more Wild inclusion here. Your talkbacks, really appreciate those. I see those popping in here. Good times, bad times from a state of hockey perspective in terms of, whoa, look at those dollars. And also, wow, we get to keep our patriarch, our masterpiece game changer in Kaprizov. So interested in differing opinions there, but this is from Russo. Kaprizov's structure is truly one of a kind per sources. He's getting 20% of the $95.5 million cap and salary and signing bonuses his first 4 years. He has $1 million salaries in each of the 8 years. Then he rolls through some signing bonuses, full no move clause. And he also continues to note that it hasn't been approved as of yet by the NHL, but a deal hasn't been consummated. Kaprizov back to the Minnesota Wild. Back to your talkbacks as well. And, the thing that's happening right now, 9 to noon, it's Nordo here. Thanks for listening. You feel maybe in some ways like this is filibustering. And in a way it is. It's cool that we have this breaking news to sink our teeth into, because it turns out, two things. London's awesome. England, beautiful countryside, and you've heard about the countryside manor with PA and Pete and all of that, and football-centric as it is, the opportunity to play in Dublin and then transition down into London, playing at Tottenham this Sunday, Kegs and Eggs, 2 weeks in a row for your favorite Minnesota Vikings team. The problem with the UK, no air conditioning, which is weird, and apparently they have the worst Wi-Fi on the planet, because it is completely disastrous with the Wi-Fi situation over in London at this particular moment. And sadly, they're far enough away. We can't do tin cans on a string here. And so they're trying to figure out the technical situation And we are trying to figure out what to make of 8 years and $17 million per for one of your favorite hockey players, Kirill Kaprizov, signing that deal or getting that deal done with Bill Guerin and the Minnesota Wild. So it's kind of a two-topic Tuesday. More of your talkbacks with the free iHeartRadio app. Also appreciate 64686 Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line. Big thoughts and opinions on this deal with Kaprizov, efforting some Wild-centric guests along the way. You're still going to get to hear, regardless of the Wi-Fi situation. And again, as I mentioned, thanks to Halvey for showing up as backup to Sauce. Can you believe the program director did not believe that Meat Sauce Paul Lambert would be here on time to record X's and O's? I have the audio of that. So at 11 o'clock, you will hear PA in his weekly chat, specifically with Kevin O'Connell. What does he think about the penalties? What does he think about the protection? What does he think about his 2-2 team? How do we go forward with this? The MASH unit from a health perspective that this team is. You're going to get to hear about all that at 11 o'clock. But talkers, talkbacks, texts, Vikes Bites, all kinds of bits following you into the second hour. It's 9 to noon right here on the